Hello, welcome to the channel. I thought because this is a slight departure from my usual videos, I'd make it a complete departure by getting out and bringing you on my daily 3-mile walk across the Northamptonshire countryside. It's also an interesting time because it's December 31st, it's New Year's Eve, and traditionally that's the point where everybody reviews the year gone by and looks forward and plans to next year. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm going to share it with you and I'm going to explain some of the changes which I'm making to this site, and hopefully you'll be interested and maybe come along for the ride. Okay, review of the year. This won't take long. I've released, I don't know, I haven't counted, but it's something like 60 or 70 videos this year. This is about 18 months into this channel's life. Can't remember exactly the numbers, and it's fair to say that this channel has had, let's be charitable, let's say it's had limited success. So this year you would think would be the death of this channel. I mean, if you look at my statistics, I've had almost no views. I've had about 3,500 views. I've got almost no subscribers. I've got about, I don't know, 75. At this point, most people, I believe, are thinking about stopping, but I'm not. And the reason why, the primary reason why I'm not disillusioned and going to jack it in, as we say here in the UK, is because my timeline looks different to most people on YouTube. My timeline is 5 years long. Before, I may not even get monetized before year 5. And when you have a timeline like that, it enables you to sit back and think a bit more. So blink and you'll miss it. That was my review of the year. Basically, nothing happened. I tried a couple of different topics and nothing much happened, and that's okay. So I'm going to start making changes to this channel. I'm going to start experimenting more. But let's get back into the house and I'll take you through how I'm proposing to make the changes, what changes I'm going to make, and where this is going. And I think it might be useful for anybody who's currently contemplating YouTube or has hit the wall or is thinking of stopping generally. And I'll catch up with you in a minute. So I'm going to relaunch this channel and I'm going to change its direction, because although I've done lots of things which I've been interested in, none of them have really been stuff which has taken off, and none of them have really tapped into something which, rather than being just interested in it, maybe I'm kind of a bit more passionate about it, but I'm not quite sure what. So I'm now going to take you through the process in real time of me choosing this next topic, and I hope it's useful because I think it's quite a good way of doing it. I think it's worthwhile following along with because it might just help other people as well. Just to start off with, the key elements of YouTube are quite easy. Unfortunately though, because there is a huge quantity of information available on YouTube, it's really easy just to get sucked into the non-essential elements of YouTube. So I'm just going to mention a load of things which I think are really important, but they're not absolutely critical. So for example, the sound, the lighting, the background, and this is going to be controversial, the script, the first 15 seconds, how I deliver stuff. Now those are all, I know they're really important, and I'm not suggesting for a second that they're not worth spending time on, but for me, what YouTube boils down to, only 2 elements, and I can't think of any channels which don't have these 2 absolutely critical elements. the topic has to have an audience. There's no point in releasing videos for an audience of maybe, I don't know, 20,000 worldwide people who are absolutely interested in things like that. I just don't understand the whole idea of niching further and further down. To me, I understand exactly what the purpose of doing that is, but for me, it just makes life extremely hard, because for a long time, you're just going to be throwing content out into the void with no real feedback, because it's just not in a market where people are interested in looking at stuff. And the second thing is, it's presentation, but it's also personality. For me, if you've got a personality which comes across well, and if you can be relaxed, and if people feel comfortable with you, for me there's nothing worse than being in a room with somebody who is desperately nervous, worried about getting over their talk which they're giving to maybe the room full of people. On YouTube, for me, that's multiplied by 100,000, because instead of people sitting there trying to look down at their watch to see how long this is going to go on for, people just click off. So for me, the other real critical element is, and I'm going to call it personality, it's the ability just to talk. It's the ability to make people feel comfortable while you're talking. For me, the second element, which the whole personality thing, is what you can actually get relaxed with and learn by releasing videos. The topic is still an element which is a problem for me. So I'm going to dive now into finding my next topic, but I'm going to take you through this process. So if you haven't done this before, have a think about whether this might work for you, because it does for me. It helps me think, and it really helps me boil down the topic a bit further. Okay, so I'm going to use my tablet, and I'm just going to take you through how I see this thing in a sort of diagrammatic way. The key for topic selection has always been threefold, and this is kind of not new, and I just happen to agree with it. So I'm just going to give you, there are three criteria. I think you need all three of these, and they need to, all three of them, be equally strong. The first one is you have to like the topic. You have to have an interest in the topic. Okay, so it's something that you enjoy, something that you can envisage spending 150 videos talking about. Second one is it has to be able to earn money. It has to be a way, there has to be a way in which you can monetize this. This is kind of realism over passion. If you're only on YouTube just to share your views on things and with like-minded people, that's great. You don't have to worry about this one. But for me, YouTube has always been about revenue generation as well, so I'm putting that one in. And the third one is that you have something to say and you're good at it. You can be already good at it, or you might want to become good at it. So those three are the ones that I think are absolutely critical, and we're aiming for this area in here. This Venn diagram is all about, like all Venn diagrams, they're all about getting into the middle area. So you've got to like it, it's got to be able to earn you money, and you've got to be good at it. All right, so for me, those are the criteria that I'm going to apply. So in order to start this process, for me, you've got to start with kind of what you know and what you're good at, and it's your own experience. I always find that the best way of capturing what you're good at is to start writing things down, but to kind of empty your brain of any kind of preconceptions and just start populating a list of things that you know about, are good about, and it can be anything at all at this stage. And I'm just going to show you how many times I've done this. So if you take this, let's take this away, and I'm going to show you the number of different times that I've tried topic selection. So here's one which I did earlier, as they say, and what I tried to do is this hopefully, if you can read this stuff, this is very personal to me, but you can do this as well. And basically what it's saying is I'm sitting in the middle, and all around here are things that I'm interested in, or kind of what I think I've got experience in, or I'm good at. And the first thing I did was I started writing down topics, so family, work, hobbies, interests, skills, and kind of my internal stuff that goes on inside my head. And I did this one, I think I did this one about 18 months ago. So it's got lots of stuff in there. You can freeze this and have a look if you want to see what this in more detail, but that's kind of where I started. Then I went and looked at another one. This was about 3 or 4 months later. I did the same exercise again. This one looks different this time because I'd kind of probably just in a different headspace, to be honest. This time I did it, and I then started applying the criteria which we were talking about earlier. So I started with, okay, what am I good at? Okay, so those are the skills, but what am I really interested in? Those are the interests. And what would I feel comfortable talking about? And so these were the things which, so I started crossing things out which I couldn't imagine releasing videos that people would either find interesting or that I would be able to stick at. So I crossed off in work, I crossed off accountancy, because while I've got skills in accountancy, it bores me to tears. Sorry, all you accountants. And so that one has to go. I was dealing with elderly parents at the time. My marriage is absolutely rock steady, but I didn't really want to talk about it. And then my skill set. And you notice how I crossed out almost all of the skills which I've got, but I just couldn't imagine being able to release 100 videos on all of these things without getting bored rigid, and that would come through. So, and then up here around myself, this actually surprised me because there were plenty of things in here which I didn't cross out. You get the impression, you get the idea what I'm talking about here, okay? And so this was another one I did. Again, this is kind of, this was more recently, and I haven't crossed any of these out. And I've been looking at this one again. I don't feel like doing another version of this, but one of these topics caught my eye when I did this one recently, and it's over here. Do you remember how self was something which was interested? Now, when I say self, yeah, who doesn't like talking about themselves? But I'm actually quite interested in the sort of psychology of ourselves, and I've had kind of counselling and psychotherapy and that sort of thing myself, and I found it absolutely fascinating. So gradually I've started kind of moving up towards this area here. And in particular on this occasion, this one over here. Now MA stands for positive mental attitude. Now anybody who's been around for a while and done sales will kind of recognise that as a kind of a buzz phrase, but it's about positivity. And I began thinking about that, and that to me felt like something that I should start putting on a list of possibles. So I thought some more about this and began to start thinking, well, one area which I always find interesting is that over time I have become more and more, and for want of a better word, I would say it's optimistic. I feel more positive about things and optimistic about things, and I started to bring that into my day-to-day life more and more. And I thought, well, there is something here which perhaps I could really focus in on. And optimism is where I'm now thinking to start basing this channel. But optimism is an enormous area, and it's kind of, yeah, we're all optimistic, but maybe some of us aren't, but you know. And then I thought, well, actually, what I am also is I'm really pragmatic. I can't stand all the sort of fluffy, sort of woo-woo stuff around anything to do with psychology. I like to focus in and make it about the real world. And I came up with a phrase which I believe is worth real careful consideration, and that phrase is pragmatic optimism. And I'm going to stop this video now because that is going to be the topic of the next video, where I actually start putting some shape around the channel.